This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good day, everyone. My name is Dawn Ringrose, and I'm Principal of Organizational Excellence Specialist. I'm very pleased to be presenting today on webinar 1 in a series of 3 about the global assessment on the current state of organizational excellence. Over the last 10 years, we've been doing this study and very proud of the results. We've now got 3,990 respondents, which allows us to share a fair degree of detail for the benefit of the excellence community and working population. And today I'm going to be talking about one aspect of the report that we released earlier this year, which is the 4th interim report, and it covers off the principles or the culture that is committed to excellence and our findings in that respect. So as we look at the world, there's, according to the World Analytical Grouping, there are 7 regions, and we've got a really good sample size across 21 industry sectors, 4 roles, 3 different types of organizations, 4 different sizes of organizations, and 21 industry sectors. We've got, of course, reports by region and for quite a number of high responding countries, we're able to take a look at the data there. So for today, we'll be kind of narrowing that down to a select few variables, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. This is the first study of its nature that's ever been done. Most of the work in the excellence community has concentrated on, sharing information on excellence models, providing a real formula for success, because when you implement the practices of high performing organizations, you get a culture that's committed to excellence, and you go on to achieve exceptional results across a balanced system of measurement. And so it's been wonderful to have that research that really validates that formula for success and then shares the stories of excellence award winners or those that have been recognized for the good work that they've done. And it's funny, in all the decades of excellence models, when they're first introduced back in 1980s, no one ever asked the question, well, what is the current state of excellence? So when we talked about that back on the Organizational Excellence Technical Committee, we agreed that this would be a good study to do and that I should be the one to do it, because I've got an excellence model and an automated assessment tool that lends itself very well to that. And that the results would in turn be very beneficial to everyone in the excellence community and working population. So this study has been led by myself and my volunteer research team, which have been just outstanding. They are the reason that the study results exist, so I have to really compliment them on their efforts. And it's it's quite a remarkable study because there was 0 budget for it, right? So this has been done on volunteer time, and certainly because we're all passionate and interested in doing the work. So it's been amazing what we've been able to do over the last 10 years. And I have to share my gratitude and to all those who have been involved, and just say how pleased I am to share the results. This is the framework, and I published about this framework back in 2010. What it does is it takes the definitions of the principles, practices, and measures that we have in excellence models, and it puts them all in one place. And it's really based on the 4 leading models that were first introduced back in the late 1980s and have evolved over time. But there's 9 principles, there's 9 key management areas, and there's a host of performance measures that help us to gauge how we're doing in these key management areas. And this publication also includes implementation guidelines for the user, which was missing in the literature. And I'm pleased to have contributed, because people like myself that are certified management consultants, this is kind of where we live, and pleased to share some of the basic implementation steps to putting these practices in place. It's been the most commonly asked question I've ever received over time doing this work is, how do you do this or how do you do that? So this framework includes the 9 principles that are common to a culture that's really committed to excellence and is characteristic of high-performing organizations, and the 9 key management areas that we see. And in each of these key management areas, of course, are practices, and there's 101 in total. You know, if you've got a larger size of organization, anything over 25 employees, basically, you've got 102 practices. We use an abbreviated version of this for micro size with 1 to 25 employees, and it's got 51 practices. So this is what we're using, and we're using 2 rating scales, a subjective rating scale for the principles and a much more objective rating scale for the practices across the key management areas. Because with the principles and the culture, we want to know, well, what's your gut feel? To what extent are these in place and characteristic of your organization? But with regards to all the practices, we want to know, well, are you using a good approach? Is it fully deployed throughout the organization? Are you getting results? And so it covers it's a much more objective scale that we use to get feedback on that. We have an automated assessment reporting tool that allows us to do this sort of work more easily, but there's still a fair bit of hefty lifting behind the scenes to get out the reports, because there's such a volume of data and information that we have from close to 4,000 respondents now, all those ratings and all the open-ended comments that they provide, which really make for a rich report. So we gather this data and get our respondents to tell us about the role that they play, the size of their organization, the type of organization, whether it's business, government, or nonprofit, which industry sector is it part of. There's 21 according to our international classification, which country they're from, and of course we convert that into what region they're from in the world, and there's 7 regions. And we've got all these wonderful ratings and open-ended comments from them to take a look at and aggregate and analyze and report on. We've shared this data and aggregate data and information far and wide on the Organizational Excellence Technical Committee LinkedIn site, in all sorts of reputable newsletters. We've been at international conferences talking about it. So a fair investment on our end in terms of the volunteer time and the money to attend these sorts of things. But we really are keen to do a project that unites and benefits all stakeholders. And that's the excellence community at large. There's close to 100 countries around the world that have programs, and some have award programs. And then there's the working population at large, which we don't know very much about excellence models. Only 20% of the working population is at all familiar. And so we want them to be familiar. We want them to know that these models exist. They want to be able to use them to their advantage, to improve their performance and get good results in their organizations. So it's all about enabling that awareness and understanding and application and the great results that you get. And we know that with more high performing organizations, you've got a contribution to a local economy, trade, and ultimately resident quality of life, because those organizations are, as they improve their performance, they hire employees, they buy goods and services from the community, they contribute to the community in terms of volunteer time and different sorts of causes. And that contributes also to trade and resident quality of life. So it's something that really benefits everybody at the end of the day. So with respect to the teaser assessment and the 9 principles, out of those almost 4,000 respondents, we've got 2,349 respondents that just did the teaser assessment. We've got good coverage across the industry sectors and the regions, And we've got a nice cross section of respondents by type, role, general sector size, and region. So those are the exact numbers for you. And here's what they had to say in terms of ratings. And you see that all principals received ratings in a pretty high range. When you take a look at the 10-point scale and a range from low to high, and you separate it into 5 categories, we're seeing most of these ratings in the medium-high range. And the most highly rated principles were leadership involvement and focus on the customer, while the lowest rated were prevention-based process management and data-based decision-making. When we take a look at the ratings by role, respondents provided ratings in the medium-high range again, and you can see that leadership and other, which might be board members, were slightly higher, but followed closely by management and staff. These observations are really a synopsis of the open-ended comments, and so you can see what leaders and managers and on the following slide, staff and other had to say. So it's really interesting to take a look through their lens at what's going well and what needs to improve. And here's staff and other. And it's very interesting when you take a look at leadership saying, gee, we need to improve employee engagement. And then you hear from staff saying, gee, we've got pretty good employee engagement. It's so wonderful to collect this data and information, and it might give each other a little bit more confidence about what's going well, but it's a wonderfully rich form of information to get everybody's feedback on the opportunities for improvement. By size, we see that the large size have a slightly higher rating, followed by their micro, medium, and small counterparts. And when we look at size, it's really on the basis of number of employees. So micro has 1 to 25, small has 26 to 100, medium have 101 to 999, and large are those with 1,000 employees or more. And again, they're weighing in on what's going well, what needs to improve. And you can see the differences, between the different sizes of organizations. I think they're at different stages of maturity. When you're a micro-size organization and you're just starting off and you're trying to build that organization and put a good management system in place and work with your employees to strengthen the performance of that organization. Sometimes different things are going on at that stage than as maturity increases, through small size, medium, and then large. So you've got different things that you're looking at, things that you're reflecting on in terms of your strengths and opportunities. And here we look at medium and large, and you can see, what they're zeroing in on. One thing that we notice throughout, though, is that emphasis on communication, how important it is from the top down and across the organization, departments, and so forth, and then with customers and suppliers and partners that might be outside the organization. By type, when we look at government, business, and nonprofit, we can see that business is out in front in terms of the rating, and not too far behind is nonprofit and government. And again, you can see what they're focusing on as being important when it comes to the culture in their organization and what they perceive to be strengths and their opportunities for improvement. And different perspectives, governments are serving citizens and taxpayers and wanting to provide services that are of benefit. Whereas, business has got customers, they got products or services they're delivering. They've got to be competitive. They've got to have customers to stay in business. And, nonprofits, of course, are serving members. It could be professional association or an industry association, or it could be a special cause that they're supporting. And they've got to have, strong mission and great staff in place, and they may or may not have effective, resources to be working with. Some of are dealing, smaller size organizations are often dealing with quite a few resource constraints, particularly financial, and big, job ahead on the public awareness side. So all of these organizations are challenged by different things and have different types of customers, right? And different products or services that they're providing. If we look at general sector between manufacturing and service, pretty close in terms of the ratings for each of these general sectors. And, yes, the principles have got to be in place. That culture that's committed to excellence has to be in place, but it's a much different environment. Manufacturing, you're producing a product to a given level of quality, and your turnaround time and the cost of producing that product are very, very top of mind, and you've got the advantage of using technology and equipment to do that. Service sector is similar, but it's got a much different, that factor of variability that it is introduced when you're dealing with customers, one-on-one or as groups. It's a little bit more challenging. And so it's harder to be consistent in that level of service. And so it's interesting to see what they both had to say. The respondents in each of these sectors had to say about what was going well and what needed to improve. So you can see in the manufacturing that emphasis on, of course, quality and process optimization, production efficiency, strong supply chain, whereas in the service sector, that's being customer facing and focused and delivering a high level of service consistently, and having a strong presence in the marketplace. And then on the opportunity side, back, manufacturing, they want more standardized processes. They want to focus a little bit more on their environmental impact. Whereas in service, they're dealing sometimes with high employee turnover, and they're looking at all their digital service channels and wanting to be up to date and utilizing the ones that are most appropriate for their customers, and delivering service to them using the latest in terms of technology that they've studied, and it's shown to provide improvement for them. When we take a deeper dive into the industry sectors, here's the industry sectors where we had 25 or more respondents, and you start to see some of those ratings differentiating a little bit, and that's simply because we're moving into more detail by industry sector, and we'll see that administrative and support services got quite a high rating, as has a professional, scientific, and technical. Whereas a sector that's falling a little bit farther behind is the agriculture, forestry, and fishing, and to a certain extent the public sector and mining sector. But most of these ratings are really quite good, and so organizations are doing quite well, and they're in the medium and the medium high range. So they're doing quite well in that respect. Here's some comments from some of the respondents. So you can see the different perspective that management has from, medium-sized business in the manufacturing sector in France, speaking about a particular principle, leadership involvement. And you can see from another industry sector, human health, a leader talking about, large-size organization in the government, and the United Kingdom on the principle of people involvement. So it gives you a real view of what's going on inside that organization, what's going well. And here's an example from a staff person in a small size business in the service sector and wholesale and retail trade sector in Mexico. And they're talking about alignment and, being in the retail sector, and that they shift their promotions with the seasons. So everybody's got to be in the know about store level tactics. So it's got to cascade that communication from the top headquarters right through to the individual store level. And alignment is critical. when we look at an excellence model, we think about alignment, we think about that strategic plan being aligned with a business plan and other plans like marketing plans and human resource plans and financial plans and so forth, right down to the work processes that people are doing, using, and also the way they're being rewarded and measured and so forth. And all of this has to be in sync. The excellence model helps make any organization make sure they've got a really good management system in place and they're covering all the bases. So alignment is something that it certainly offers, and you can see it coming through in the comments. Principles by region. Again, we're diving down a little deeper into the data, and we can see the differences between the regions. With South Asia, is doing quite well with the highest rating there, and other sectors not as much so, like Latin America and Caribbean, but they're only about a point apart. But this does start to show us some of the differences, and then we can see by the open-ended comments a little bit more about why those ratings are the way they are. And this, of course, is just the aggregate rating. This is just an overall average of all the respondents from that region. When you dive down deeper, into, let's say, an organization, or you're going to see something different yet. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Here are the comments that people were making, and they're kind of summarized here with respect to the strengths that they noted and the opportunities for improvement that were noted. And you can see a common theme about teamwork and education and innovation running through some of these comments, and also the opportunities that are facing them. And here's for the last two, Middle East and North Africa and North America. You can take a look at what generally people are saying about what's in place and where they need to do a bit more work. And the beautiful thing about the excellence model too is that all of the practices in the excellence model are directly related to the 9 principles. So if you're low in a certain principle, you can look down at your ratings on all the practices and see which one are directly related and influence that principle. And so you can zero in on the low-rated best practices that are likely, if you buoy up your performance in that area, it's going to contribute to buoying up that related principle. We've got a document on the homepage of our website called Interrelationships, and you can download that and you can take a look at those direct relationship and how everything is interrelated and interconnected. It's a system of interrelated, interconnected parts that has to, and everything's got to be working well together in order for the organization to perform well. So this aspect of the model is really very important. And lastly, South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, talking about things that are going well, things that need to improve. And as we look at these, and we know a little bit about countries in these particular regions, we can appreciate that some are struggling a little bit more with infrastructure development or energy, and how important that is to make sure that regions have things like this in place eventually. So it's better for their working population, helps them perform better, and the organization to perform better, and other things like education, how important that is to individual employee performance, which ultimately impacts the organization's performance, or of course the industry sector, a country and a region. So these sorts of things are being noted. And so people reading through the report, whether you're from a particular industry sector or a region, whether you're a government that wants to have a stronger country economically, and participating in trade and so forth, you get a lot of good information from this, from the many vantage points that exist out there of potential readers. and listeners to what we're doing with respect to this study. Here's all the high responding countries that had 25 or more respondents, so we can report back to these countries and give them a snapshot of where they're sitting right now in terms of the current state of excellence. And again, just their open-ended comments and giving them a view of the industry sectors that have responded and how things are going there by industry sector. And so this is very important. I mean, the culture of an organization, the degree to which is committed to excellence is very influential, like I said before, on whether or not the organization is high performing, whether or not it's contributing to an economy, trade, trickling into resident quality of life. This is very, very important to know. And in the next webinars, I'll be talking about the key management areas, the best management practices. So it gives us a view too, as we look inside each key management area, what's going well, what's not, all those 102 practices, right? It's certainly informing. Now, I've just taken the highest responding countries for this CHISA assessment on the 9 principles, and I've given you a view of each one, and we can see that India is got the highest ratings, significantly higher than the United States, Canada, or the United Arab Emirates. So kudos to India and all the hard work that they've been doing there over the years with regards to quality and excellence, and this is starting to show in the culture that's really committed to doing well and striving to improve. And I don't hear this just from the global research study or crunching these numbers and looking at the comments, but I hear it from my colleagues, my many colleagues that are in India and exceptional professionals there in this area. And so you get this information from all different angles. So you can see just how strong they are in leadership involvement. Overall, all their ratings are higher on the principles than their counterparts, and they're kind of leading the charge in this respect. And United States is got some numbers that are pretty close to or slightly above the world average. Highest score and focus on the customer, lowest in the prevention-based process management. So shows where they're doing really well or need to do a little bit more work. Canada has got scores below the world average on all 9 principles, and they're a bit closer to the world average on partnership development and societal commitment. But there's some opportunity for improvement here. And the United Arab Emirates, they've really been embracing excellence and working really hard over the last 10 years. The government there is really committed to becoming a high-performing government. And so we see all the good work that they've been doing there and how that's even influencing, other aspects of the United Arab Emirates and through, let's say, the business community. So they're doing quite well, and still a little bit more work to do on the database decision making and societal commitment side of things. But it's interesting, each industry sector, each country, each organization that does this has their own snapshot of things that are going well and things that need to improve. And so the whole idea is to focus, build on what you're doing well and focus on those things that need to improve. And when we do work like this with organizations or industry sectors or countries, we love to provide that snapshot, and we love to zero in on at the organizational level so they can take a look at their own unique snapshot and what they need to work on. And then we provide individual action plans so all their employees can get involved in working on those things and help them out where they need help. Might need some training, might need some consulting services. Some are perfectly capable of just doing it on their own. And so we're here to help support that effort. There's also all sorts of examples from around the world of other countries that have really dedicated themselves to this, such as Singapore, that moved from third world country to a first world country over a course of 30 years, and who today stands at the top, usually number one on a lot of indices, when you take a look at variables. And let's say the triple bottom line, social and economic and governance and so forth, environment and so forth, are doing quite well on a lot of indices that you look at. Not perfect, but like I say, each country has their own story. And well, United States and Canada were part of the initial four leading frameworks that started all this off back in the late 1980s. It's very interesting to see what's happened in those countries over time, and Europe with their framework, and Australia. And then newcomers, India has been maybe the last 20, 30 years really focused on this sort of thing, doing really well. The UAE has been really focused on this for the last 10 years, have made incredible strides, moving at a very rapid pace. So it's really interesting to see and experience and be part of these stories and the remarkable work that organizations and industry sectors and so forth and countries are doing. Just remarkable. So overall, as we consider all of these aggregate ratings across these many respondents, we see that the principals are rated a bit higher, by leadership and other roles, large size organizations, business type, particular sector like the professional, scientific, and technical sector, those in the South Asia region, and that we've got the highest rated principles being leadership, involvement, and focus on the customer, which is great, and the lowest rated where we need to do a little bit more work on prevention-based process management and database decision making. So popular courses there would be one in work processes, where you learn how to map and document and monitor and control and improve, your work processes and database decision making. What kind of measures do we use to gauge how we're doing in these key management areas, and how do we use that information to make better decisions and decide what we need to work on as a high priority now, what's already going well, and where do we need to focus more effort to buoy things up, our performance. And all this information is very important when you consider having a good management system in place and using it to help you strengthen an organization, an industry sector, a country, keep you moving in the right direction in terms of continual improvement, and then getting those wonderful results and benefiting by that formula for success that we know exists with excellence models and the application of them. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for your kind attention today. An absolute pleasure to present on this unique study that we've had the honor of leading, and so excited to share the results with you. The next two webinars will be on the key management area results of the full assessment, so we can take a look at each of the 9 key management areas and how things are going on each of those best management practices. And then the final webinar will be on 11 industry sectors where we've got a lot of data and information, and we can take a look at them with respect to how they're doing on the principles and all the key management areas, and you get a chance to take a look at what's going well and what needs to improve by these industry sectors. So we're also getting quite close to having enough data and information to report on the remaining industry sectors, and so I think by next year we should have that information, a very complete picture in that respect. So look forward to sharing that when we're able to issue that report. Thank you very much for your attention today, and I hope this information that we're providing is of great benefit to you. With that, we'll turn to some questions from our audience.